Thank you all for joining us. I'm Mickey from the Economic Development Council. Before we get started and I introduce Marcy and Stephen from the San Juan Makers Guild, I did want to mention that the Economic Development Council, we're a small nonprofit that focuses on, as the name sounds, economic development in San Juan County. So we do a whole bunch of different things. One of the things we're doing is this series of makerspace system talks to help get people who are interested in maker spaces and similar sorts of collaborative workspaces and maker activities to get together, get to know each other, find out what other people are already doing, and be able to help coordinate to create a system that will work in our dispersed geography. The EDC also does a bunch of other business support programs. For example, we've been trying to help people get access to lots and lots of different state and federal resources to survive the current economic crisis. So please do get in touch with us about business needs and things like that. We also helped people with solving unemployment issues. So with that, I want to introduce and thank Marcy and Stephen for coming to talk about what they're working on at the San Juan Makers Guild. So thank you, Marcy and Stephen.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone for attending. I understand we have some new folks online in the meeting that didn't participate in the last presentation that we did. And so the suggestion was to back up a little and give you a little background about how the Guild was formed and what its short and long-term goals are. And then we have an activity we can actually do together today. So my name's Marcy Montgomery, and I'm founder and manager of a nonprofit that is One Island. And One Island's been doing sustainability education, programming in a variety of different fields for 15, 16 years. And we relocated, or actually returned, to Orcas almost 3 years ago. And at the beginning of that time period, we just wanted to listen in the community and hear what was going on. So we had some really interesting conversations with people. And we kept seeing over and over again this maker entrepreneurial drive happening here. And it seemed like a natural fit to try and create some sort of container to assist makers with whatever their needs may be. And as the Guild is being formed now and launched, it doesn't have a clear framework on what all of its services will be, because we're waiting to hear from the community what the needs are. So part of that listening and hearing is we wrote a grant proposal to the USDA for the Rural Business Development Grant Program. And they have given us some funds to start doing this asset mapping so that we can go countywide and invite people who are makers in any maker field to contribute information about who they are, what they're doing, and then also a needs assessment to hear what is needed. So what is needed as far as collaboration between makers? What's needed as far as marketing? What's needed that the Guild actually could provide, which we envision as being some type of professional and business development training and networking between, but also marketing, how to work together cooperatively to market different sectors of products more cost effectively. So we have some sense of what's out there in front, but right now we're pretty excited to be able to launch the asset mapping tool. So there are several different tools we have available right now. One is an online directory that we will look at shortly. Another is the asset mapping, which is a survey that is in large part about self-reflection, about what you're making. Are you a professional or business owner? Are you a do-it-yourself hobbyist? Are you one of those or none of those, and also a learner? So we're looking for people who are lifelong learners as far as the makers movement. And then who are the teachers? So those are kind of the four groups that became obvious to us to serve through previous EDC conversations. So we're trying to hold this large container to get the conversation to come from all the different sectors. And when I say sectors, we're talking artists and artisans, food growers, processors and producers of value-added product, performers in all different fields, as well as designers and manufacturers and builders. So that's a big field of people. And our goal with the asset mapping will be to reach at least 200 people who give us feedback. So we begin to have a way to then gather data, analyze it, and then share it back into the community so that there is a sense of engagement in the topics that are of the highest need and most interest to makers. So again, we're not coming at this knowing where we're going to end up. It's kind of this interesting, it's like starting down a path and not being sure where the end of the path is going to go. But we have confidence that as a nonprofit organization, we'll hold the space. And it is currently set up with the state of Washington as a nonprofit organization. So that's been taken care of for, I don't know, a year and a half or so now. And in the future, there's a chance that it might become its own 501c3, or it might want to be a co-op, or it might want to be a trade association. So it's up to the community to make those kind of decisions, because eventually our goal is to have it create its own board and have buy-in from leadership in all those different sectors, so that it's really reflective of what our current capacities are, but also encourages us together as a community to dream the future. And in the midst of all this, COVID happened. So now there's a lot of conversation going on about reinvention and how to really think about a year-round stable economy that is not so tourism dependent and has the ability to not require people to come here to make purchases from makers, but to help our makers figure out how to get out into the wider world so that we can maintain the rural quality of life that we enjoy, but also develop an economy for current generation. And we also think about the upcoming generation. So that's an introduction from my point of view. And if Stephen has anything to add, I think it would be good to hear his voice, because he is technically the founder and I've just been developing the tools. So thanks for listening so far.
I'm just anxious to get going. And that's really what today's about. Today's the feet on the ground beginning of that application of the Rural Development Business Grant. This is the first step. So I'm so grateful to see so many people I've never met. I'm really excited about that.
So I am going to try a screen share here, which I have tested. Let's see if I learned it. So that you can take a look at one of the main tools that is in development, which is the website. So let's see. Are you able to see this? All right. So the San Juan Makers Guild.com is the portal to get into the main website, and it provides a welcome, an introduction. Oh, this is a format I haven't seen before. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So now it looks more like I usually see it. So from this website, we have the directory, and we are beginning to fill this out. So the mission, island lifestyle, how to request the maker listing. And these are actually the different groups I thought you might want to look at to see whether or not you see a fit for whatever you're doing in this grouping. And if not, we'd certainly like to know about that. And in addition to makers themselves, we are including access to information about arts organizations, food and ag organizations, training and economic development organizations. So it's sort of a library of resources, but we're hoping that it's more dynamic and that we actually have some interactive features to it. So next I'm going to click on join. And this is a chance to then see how you can get into the asset mapping project or request a directory listing. And in either case, you are, I'll go ahead and do the asset mapping. you are reaching a registration screen first. And what's nice about this feature is you would register yourself as a participant in any of the surveys or the request for the directory listing, and only have to do that one time. So you do create a new account, and then you will go in and actually participate in sharing information. So it's a pretty simple step. And I'm wondering if you guys would be willing to go into on your own computers, go into that, go to the website and choose the asset mapping window. So it's the San Juan Makers Guild.com. And then choose join. I'm trying to get back into screen share here. And then when you're enjoying, go ahead and register. And then what you're doing is just setting up an account where if you start the asset mapping or the directory, you can actually come back and complete it. So the registration is required for it to have the database to have a way to recognize you again. And we're going to set aside maybe 10 or 15 minutes to do this exercise just so you get comfortable with it on your own. And this works on most phones, tablets, and laptops or desktop. So it is set up to be ready for whenever you want to enter all your full information. And then I think while you're learning to navigate and get into the space and hopefully get comfortable with it, something that we'd like to talk about is why this data? Why are we gathering this, and how is it beneficial to all of us? And all of the information that you're submitting through the asset mapping will be kept confidential. The only analysis that the public will see will be congregate data, so it won't necessarily identify you as an individual to protect your privacy. And as a contrast to that, the directory listings that we're encouraging so that we can get the website populated, you will have a choice in the directory of which information you're just sharing with us so we know how to reach you, and which information you would like the public to be able to access. So there's two levels inside the directory listing. But back to the asset mapping, with this information, we're going to have a better idea of who's making what and what their needs are, and who would be interested in further contact. Because the RBDG program allows us to kind of do a funnel of information where we catch the broad group. And then as we work down, our goal is to try and find at least 12 different makers, possibly more, who would like to go into a private consultation with different business experts to help you hone either your craft or your marketing and business development skills. So there is the big conversation that everybody will participate in just by submitting the information. And then from that, we will be having one-on-one conversations with folks who are interested to try and figure out which of the consultants that we are going to be able to fund to bring into the community will be the right fit. So in the meantime, we've been talking with folks at the NABC, the Northwest Ag Business, who do more than just ag. They do rural economic development also. And they're working on this with us for a long-range market plan. So they'll be available to us. We had a really interesting conversation in the last week with the Northwest Innovations Resource Center, and they have a variety of classes also that we think could be helpful. But until we're really sure what the needs are, we're waiting to contract whoever the experts are that will come help us. Because our goal in the next year is to actually identify people who are either just beginning to launch or already starting to make, but have not found a real good, market path yet, or those who are already making, like some have approached us who've been doing wonderful products for 30 years, who would like some support on creating their business plan, that they have kind of done everything intuitively in their business for a long time, but they're interested in looking out 5 years or 10 years and try and figure out where they would like to go and what other types of markets they would like to enter into. So
Marcy?
Yes.
Did you see there's some questions in the chat?
Okay, let's go check that out. So while we're looking through those questions, something else to mention is we really need to find out where there are existing facilities that makers are using. Any type of shared facility, whether it's two people who are collaborating or an actual makerspace. So there is the ability to kind of create a map of the islands, which we want to do with a GIS story map ultimately with some of this information, so that when you guys as makers or learners or teachers want to figure out where to go find someone to help you with a service or a skill set, that's identified for you in a visual context as well. So another one of our partners is the GIS program over at Western. And we'll be working with folks there to help us figure out how to take the data that comes out of the asset mapping and not just have just the website, the registry, which will, be useful for what it is as a text and photographic, but also be able to have the GIS mapping where there's layers. So, if you click on makerspace, you'll be able to see countywide where different shared makerspaces are, for example. So some of you may be from an institution that wants to start a makerspace. And that's been this other conversation the EDC is really helping to activate in the community. So I think that's great too. So I'm going to take a look now at some of the questions. Okay, a good question. If you are a maker, but you also have a gallery and or a makerspace, each of those entities can have their own listing over in the directory. But when you're in the asset mapping, you have the option to either register as an individual, and then there are boxes for you to click on a whole matrix of aspects of the maker's movement. So in one asset mapping entry, you can include any of the 4 categories and any of the activities that are listed in the 4 categories, but also we've made a point to have information boxes. So if we've overlooked how to represent somebody's needs or interests, there's definitely space in there for you to give input and sort of customize the asset mapping for yourself. And I think somebody's wanting to know what the platform is that when you click through to go do this, you're at. It's called Checkbox. And it is something like Qualtrics, if you're familiar with Qualtrics. So that's kind of the back end for the asset mapping tools. And then somebody wanted the link again. So fortunately that got posted. And then when you get to the checkbox system, it'll say oneisland.org, which is the parent account.checkbox.com login. So that confirms that answer. And someone is on Lopez working to bring a worker space, which is great. And we've had some really great talks through the EDC with people from Lopez who are doing the upcycling, recycling, as well as looking at repairs and retooling sort of services. Those are all the kind of things we really want to hear about. Oh, good. I just learned about this group recently, the Friday Harbor Atelier. Really interested in hearing about what you guys are doing. So in that kind of situation, you might want to respond to the asset mapping as yourself, as your own business. And then so that we can get even more detail, you could come back in on behalf of the group and also do the atelier. And that would give you more room to, describe the sort of the group mission and who's participating, which would be great to see, as well as a chance to do a more individual response if you'd like. Okay, that looks like we've answered what is in the chat box currently. So we estimate it takes about half an hour to do the asset mapping. It is not a quick and dirty survey. It's not superficial. It's actually encouraging you to reflect on where you're at in your maker development experience and process in life, and a little bit of forecasting, what are your future needs are that you see, and also asking you to think about the bigger picture. what do you want to see happen in San Juan County as far as an economic development and resiliency? So there's room for that at the end. And then there's also just a general comment box. So we really want to get feedback from everybody about where they're at in their individual process and ways they might want to engage with the community. And some of you are already engaged with a maker community that may be quite far flung, that is not necessarily here in the county. So there is a page for that also to let us know, well, who do you connect with outside of the county that's beneficial to you? And then that may give us an idea that there's demand in these certain areas of learning or teaching that we could also do on a local level. So as much as we can localize is great, but we are not limited in the sense of the Maker Guild's identity to only having teaching resources that are present here on the islands now. And one of the goals will be to find out, are there master makers outside of the county that you would like to learn from? That we could either physically bring in post-COVID or do some type of online class with. And, you know, if we find there's 3 or 4 people interested in a certain topic and have instructors they'd like to suggest, I think it'd be great to let other people in the maker world know, oh, well, people are interested in this. Would you be interested? And, you know, try and get a dozen people together on different subject areas. And this is something we can do now. There's no reason why in the next few months we can't identify some of this and start identifying who then the teachers can be. And when a teacher is available on the islands, and I heard of some really great people on Lopez who are retired doing, you know, incredible volunteer work in the community, helping the makers stimulate and get actual projects going, including projects with the youth. That's something that we can help support as well. So this is a beginning of a kind of an experience as a community to self-identify, but also to recognize that whatever field you are in, there are probably 40 other different makers fields that you may find a way to collaborate with. There may be some sort of cross-pollination that comes out of this process that we hope that you will find inspiring for your own work. And also the idea of the group marketing, you know, the bigger the group we are, the lower the cost is for the marketing. So all of that's out on the horizon.
I'm going to try and respond to a question about liability issues. If you're hosting a public event at your home, I would simply call your insurance broker, and there's probably a relatively simple addendum to your insurance to take care of a single event or events over time.
And then as far as insurance also, I'm not sure about the EDC, but our 501c3 carries a liability policy so that when we host something at a farm or a workshop or a teacher's location, that is covered under our liability policy also. So if you don't find it works for you to carry that coverage yourself, working together, we can look at that. Okay, so if everybody has had a chance to at least visit the website and get familiar with how to get in and get registered, I think that's enough, you know, online activity. And we'd like to be able to open it up to questions or comments or suggestions. So we're game to hear where everybody is from, what part of the maker community you're active in. And if you are active in one area, but you're really curious about something else, it would be great for everybody to hear kind of what our pool of curiosity is. But given how many people, there's 22 of us present. So let's try and keep it concise. But Mickey, would you like to help us sort of circulate through the group and kind of hear what people are working on?
Certainly. So I'm Mickey with the EDC. My interest in being in maker space activities personally actually comes from my background as a biologist and building things to do experiments back when I was working at the labs here. So I'll pass it on to the next person.
I'll jump in, Mickey, since you tapped me before. Hi, I'm Val Curtis. I'm over on San Juan Island. I'm the founder of Treehouse Creative Digital Solutions, and I've been helping some artists flip their businesses this year since they didn't have places to go to sell their wares. I'm helping them convert to the digital space and would love to help this group do the same.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Shannon Borg. I'm a writer and artist, oil painter, but also I'm a partner in the Friday Harbor Atelier, which is a private studio space. We have private studio spaces. We also have shared space and a gallery space. We do classes there, and we're also starting online classes. And also, so privately, I'm involved with that, but also my own business is that I'm an artist, but I'm an art and business marketing coach. So I work with artists to kind of teach foundational business skills, marketing skills, get websites built on Squarespace. I build those, you know, online shops and things like that for them. And also work through with the creative side of art coaching. Thank you.
Great.
I'm in Friday Harbor.
I think I saw Brian Silverstein pop up next.
Good afternoon, folks. This is exciting. I live on Lopez Island. I'm very involved in the ham radio community, and I see a number of ham radio folks faces, and I even saw one station there. I'm a volunteer at the dump on Lopez Island and have been involved in various activities. And the Lopez Solid Waste District just got a grant from the Washington Department of Ecology that Nikita put together for broadly, they call it a remakery, try to basically take things out of the trip to the landfill, instead reuse it, fix it, whatever. We have had some of that activity in the past with fabrics and a repair cafe. And so we're looking to mesh these things together. And right now we're scrambling because we have very short time to respond to the Department of Ecology on how we're going to spend the money. Not only do we have to get the answer in very quickly, we actually have to use it all by June 30th. So we're scrambling to find a space, figure out what equipment we might need, and identify activities that will be done in the next 4 months. So it really is a scramble, not a great way to do this, but we have to do what ecology needs to do, and we certainly are looking to share ideas with the other islands. So thanks very much.
Thank you. I think Barbie popped her hand up first.
Sure. I'm newly to Lopez, but have been coming up for 40 years, so I know the community pretty well and know some of the people in there. I come as an amateur hobbyist in a lot of different areas and have enjoyed learning things I don't know, from 3D printing to laser cutting to woodworking. My primary interest is as a textile artist, and I taught weaving in an elementary school for 20 years. And I'm interested in bringing that, teaching youth and teaching makers to Lopez and helping to make more spinners and weavers in the world and help utilize some of the flocks that we have on the island and keep that local. I was also involved in the San Francisco Bay Area in the tech shop community and watched that go from a wonderful sort of slow starting to an overly ambitious, incredible space that overextended and exploded and died. And I have taken many, many classes on a variety of topics from there and have some of the manuals that I would be happy to share with people who might be doing other sort of educational stuff in areas that I can't teach. So teaching and learning are my focuses, and based on Lopez.
Okay, so Bronco's hand next. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob over at San Juan Island, and I've been involved with the Northwest Innovation Research Center for probably 10 plus years on the board, and also mentoring new startups. We have about 150 active clients where we counsel, help new businesses get started. And we serve Whatcom, San Juan County, Skagit, and Island County. And we also recently started a makerspace down at Everett, co-located with WSU. And we've got 2 more maker spaces in development at this point. And I've worked with the EDC for probably 5 or 6 years, mentoring some businesses here. And my background's in technology.
Great.
Thank you. I think I saw Gregory Hancock's. hand come
we
up.
really appreciate your organization.
Well, thank you. It's a really good resource. We're happy to cooperate with you.
So like Brian and Bob, I'm also a ham radio guy, but that's not my primary reason for being involved. My background's in technology, software, but for the past 10 years, I've been doing electronics as well as software, primarily digital radio stuff for the utility industry. It's kind of a lifestyle business. I've kept it small. The company's called Grid Insight, wireless meter reading technology primarily. I try to focus on developing intellectual property and patentable stuff, copyrightable stuff, but I do sell products as well, high value, small volume that I fabricate with the use of subcontractors and do some final assembly here. I build prototypes here. So I have experience in all the things related to that, electronics, software, 3D, mechanical design. I have a CNC machine here. So anyway, that's kind of what we're about. I'm on Orcas, by the way, in the Rosario neighborhood.
Great.
Thank you for joining us. I think I saw Tracy Cottingham's hand come up next.
My husband's building something next to me, so if you hear some loud noises, it's not me. And I've been a maker my entire life and learned to sew at age 5, went into the garment industry in Seattle in high school and spent 45 years working on designing products that go into the outdoor industry, and semi-retired. My husband says I'm probably retired, but I work with On Lopez. My Instagram handle in the last few years has been designing for community, because I see that you can't just stop designing when you're not doing it for a living. And so I spent 20 years doing theater, all the costumes for our community Shakespeare, and working with Nikita on the Repair Cafe. One of my retirement jobs has been working with Patagonia in their Wornwear program, where they tour in Europe, in Japan, Chile. I've mainly gone to Europe and the US with them, touring around a little wooden Airstream type trailer, repairing anything we can repair. And it's been like amazing. So I'm very interested in the makers group and what Nikita's doing. I'd rather repair something than design something new. And so great. I also have a number of young upcycle people on Lopez that are reaching out to me to get a wide world view of how the world does work. I think that's more for, personal interest. So I think that's it. I do have a sewing lab. I have all the industrial machines that I sort of have been able to get a hold of. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tracy. I think Brina, next hand I saw. I'm not sure I pronounced your name right, but.
Yeah, Brenna Bird. I go by Birdie, and I live on Orcas. I grew up here, came back after traveling in New Zealand and South Carolina and figuring out some really cool things that work that might work here as well. But I am definitely a lifelong student and interdisciplinary worker or thinker. I do collage, I do short documentary films, I do zines, and I'm part of a fledgling artist collective here on Orcas with other people who I went to high school with, or other 20-somethings, and we're very interested in activating artists in our community and bringing public art into the village, performances once it's open. really building a network of creatives. And so I'm so thrilled to see that the Makers Guild is doing exactly this, and so we don't have to. But we also have a lot of ideas, including an app that connects people and kind of helps people to trade or barter or skill share. We really want to transform. We have permission from the county to bring public art to the Fern Street Park in East Sound and really make it into a special kind of third space environment that brings art and nature and people together. My collective is called Ripple Rock Collective, and we have nothing online yet, so stay tuned.
Would you repeat the name
but
again?
The name of the collective?
Yes.
It's Ripple Rock Collective. Yeah, and we don't have anything online, but we will soon. My main focus is in housing and bringing together housing and craft and food production, because in my personal experience and that of my close friends who've grown up here, housing is so hard to come by, and you end up often in very unsuitable environments. This has been the case for me. I was living in a van here for 2 years because I just didn't want to work 2 jobs to pay rent. That wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to create art. And it took a long time for me to find stability in a space in which I could create. And then the blossoming happens. And I see the potential in so many people. Once they have their basic needs met, then they will create. And then if they're empowered additionally in mentorships and apprenticeships in cottage industries, who knows what can happen. I'm really excited about that. So glad to be here.
Great.
Thank you for joining us.
Could I mention something? I'm hearing the possibility that maybe more of a Slack type of environment could follow this type of conversation, so that those of us who want to talk about artist live work, retail, all of these conversations are really important to not lose the thread that we're hearing today. So we'll follow up in thinking about that and communicate with everyone.
Yeah, and I put a comment in the chat box that the EDC's been hosting a discussion group on Slack for people interested in maker spaces and start fab labs, community labs, all sorts of related types of things. So if you're interested in that, contact me. Put my email in the chat box. Shall we continue with the introductions?
Yes.
I think Kimberly popped up next on my screen.
Okay, thanks, Mickey. It's short and sweet. I'm an art educator. I'm a certified Washington State teacher with an endorsement in K through 12 visual arts, and enjoy teaching basic art concepts and skills to all ages. I had just started up some classes at the Friday Harbor Atelier when COVID came along, so that's on pause for a little while. I'm also really interested in my own personal practice as an artist, and so I'm really excited about the different opportunities that I might find through the Makers Guild. So happy to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. And Yotam, I think you're next.
Everyone, Yotam Zohar. I'm actually located at the moment in New York City, but my family and I are hoping to move to the San Juans this summer. We fell in love with it a long time ago, and we're a little bit daunted by what's happening with real estate out there right now. But here's the hoping. I've been an artist for, I don't know, 12 years or something. And for the last couple of years, actually at the beginning of last fall, I started my public school art teaching career. Chose a really interesting time to do it. So most of my time has been spent teaching remotely. And so I'm actually trying to kind of work that to my advantage and treat it as something of a specialty. Moving out, my wife is an architect, and I are kind of grappling with a lot of different possibilities in terms of how we might contribute to the local community out there between our various professions. So we're kind of looking at all possible networks and keeping our options open as we can. So very excited to be involved, and hopefully, hopefully everything works out. Kimberly, I'm also in the process of transferring my credentials, so hopefully maybe see you in school.
Thank you for coming, Yotam. Tony, I think I saw your hand next.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Tony Grossinger. I'm on Orcus. I'm a software engineer working remotely for a company in Seattle, but I think I would fall into Marcy's category of lifelong learner and do-it-yourselfer. When I lived in Seattle previously, I was very involved in one of the tool libraries there. They've got a bunch of them, but I was helping them build out a little bit of a makerspace, and I'm really interested in bringing what like Brian and Tracy were talking about on Lopez, the repair cafe idea to Orcus, and I'm very interested in exploring not necessarily something as formal as a makerspace, but like shared shop space, shared tools, and shared knowledge in whatever form that may take.
Thank you, Tony. I think Flora, I saw your hand next.
Yeah, hi, I am Flora. I'm new to Lopez, actually. We moved in the beginning of December, and we're here full time. And I'm just finding my way around, and I'm really glad to have found this because, especially in COVID times, it's been just like impossible to even think about reaching out and trying to figure out where I can sort of become involved and what is useful to my practice, which is I'm a dancer and choreographer and filmmaker, which I was really happy to see that you were including performing arts in the mapping, because I think that's important, because it's not just that. Like, I've done costume design, I've been a fabric dyer, I've like done printmaking, and so I think a lot of things like creative prospects will come to play in what I kind of get to do in the future. And so it's really great to see that there's going to be a platform to be able to meet people, find out what people are doing, see where interests can cross over. I'm also interested to just find out where there's like large open spaces for rehearsals or teaching workshops, movement-based things. Yeah, and just seeing who's around. So thank you for including performing arts.
Yeah.
Thank you, Flora. I think I saw Cammie's hand up next.
Hi, everybody. I'm kind of an interloper here, but I've exchanged a few emails with Marcy and Stephen, and I just want to say thank you to both of you and to Mickey for facilitating this. I love all things coordination. I represent Zero Waste Washington, but specifically one of our projects is the Repair Economy Washington. So I've been communicating with Marcy and Stephen and many of the other maker spaces, tool libraries, repair cafes, etc., around the state, but we're kind of creating a bridge to help build the movement statewide and actually regionally. So we're serving as a resource to help like amplify what everybody's doing in their specific locality, but then also provide support through that, like, I guess basically you could say a statewide network of idea sharing. So we have a listserv, but maybe more interestingly, no, actually probably interesting that too, a network of maker spaces and all of the folks associated with repair groups, whether they're county based or more localized, just sharing ideas, sharing resources, troubleshooting around COVID issues, etc. But we also have a website that we're developing, the Repair Economy Washington, and I can add that in the chat, that maps all of the known maker spaces, tool libraries, and repair groups in the state, with like a few bridges to the Oregon area, BC area, and we're trying to establish some contacts in Idaho. So would love, we've already got the Makers Guild mapped, but if anyone else would like to be mapped for their specific space, we use kind of broad batches and definitions of these groups. So even if you're just like specifically working in textiles, but are repair oriented, just trying to basically reduce what's going to the landfill in any way that might be defined, we would love to have you mapped on our site and just come and share your issues that are coming up across the state and build that movement.
Thanks for coming.
Yes, thanks.
And thank you so much. I think it's so great to do asset mapping.
Well, thank you for coming and for sharing those links. I don't think I see any new people's hands up, but Tracy and Flora, your hands are still up. Did you have any comments or discussion you wanted to start? I guess I'll throw back to you then, Marcy.
I get to do an introduction if that's okay.
Of course.
I'm Robert Demarest. I moved to Orcas 3 years ago and have been involved in trying to build a home here, a net zero home. And I'm a professional educator and librarian. I'm interested in the concept of tool libraries and trying to see if we can't get one organized on Orcas. I've taught computer programming, advanced placement in the high school for 20 years. And AP Studio Art. I grow mushrooms and carnivorous plants, or I did when I was in Florida, and hope to start up again here. And so I'm very interested in the local community and the resources available. Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for attending. I'd like to give you an achievable goal as a result of participating today, which would be by the end of the weekend to have put your listing up through the asset mapping tool. And again, it does have a save button at the bottom. So if you get distracted and coffee is going off crazy and you have to stop, I would suggest to always save just to make sure it's there when you get back. And then that'll come through on our end and we'll have a sense of kind of how many people actually made it through the process. And if there are any questions outside the asset mapping or the directory listing, if you're ready to have a listing put up, the email is the SJMG, just the abbreviation, at sanjuanmakersguild.com, and that's on the website in quite a few places. And then secondly, I'd like to ask for some help. I'd like to ask everybody who's here today to find 2 other people to fill out the asset mapping so that we kind of get this ripple going through the community. Word of mouth is invaluable, and see where we're at. And as far as the type of people we want to attract to this tool, remember it's the do-it-yourself hobbyists. It's the people who are either launching or operating a business, lifelong learners, as well as people who may want to teach. And then in addition to that, in the lifelong learner teach zone are, again, looking for institutions, organizations, companies who might want to sponsor some type of a makerspace resource. So we kind of gather everything from the individual up to the collective community scale of information. And then if you are ready to do the directory listing, it allows you to pick 3 different categories. And I don't suppose we ultimately have to limit it to that, but it seemed reasonable. And the ability to upload a photograph. And then I have a team member who's going to be helping me get those online, and we'll check it out with you to make sure you're happy with the listing, and then you'll be up there. And thanks to the Rural Business Development Grant, we can launch all this at no cost to you guys. So, for the first year, we're looking at least getting the most minimum information up we can, listings for everybody we can. And then I think a way that in the future, the organization can continue as a membership-based organization is to look at different levels of participation. If you want to put up a video or other types of resources, we can talk about that as well. But initially, just the basic, a photograph, a description, contact information, and a byline would help us start building momentum. And again, please share this with fellow makers and fellow lifelong learners who maybe are just curious and haven't even begun the process yet of developing a maker product. But we want to feel inclusive so that everybody has a voice. And truly, this is what we learned in being involved with EDC is, you know, that the maker field is very broad. But again, there are the people who are just learning how to do, there are people who are in full production, and people who are in full production who want to reinvent and learn something new. So we're open to it all, and just want to encourage you to share. And in the bottom of the process with the asset mapping, there is a place where you can put comments. And I would be really curious to hear from people, either there or in an email, whether or not there were pieces missing in our asset mapping question. So if we overlook something that when we do a second survey that we could be capturing, that might be maybe a little more personal or not. Just give us ideas, because this is a pretty flexible environment and we're just at the beginning of coordinating all this. So all of your feedback is greatly welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for coming. Did you want to have a little more time for discussion, or?
We are available if there are other things people would like to chime in about.
Okay.
Brian? Oh.
One comment I did have was, I was thinking that you might want to include something specific for, or not necessarily like a whole section, but add to one of those sections about scientific or mathematical makers. Thinking about people like the folks at Friday Harbor Labs and the other research organizations, where they wouldn't necessarily fit into the marine technology, or they might not see how they fit into there, and sure, it might just sort of stop and not fill out the form further. But some of them are really good makers. So
thank you. Let's do that.
Yeah, you'll see once you get in that this is a really fascinating matrix of fields. So, you know, we started kind of doing the artists and food piece, and then we started hearing about the performers were interested, and the designers and the builders and the architects and
engineers,
fashion designers, software people. We are all trying to figure out this new lifestyle as makers. And I am hoping that we discover some that didn't even occur to us yet that we can add in here. And again, this is the beginning. So once you fill out and you complete the asset mapping, there will be opportunities to participate in other ways in the future as well as those unfold. And the grant itself, asset mapping is stage 1. The needs assessment is stage 2, which is a little more personal. What do individuals actually need, you know, to help them move forwards and whatever their goals are. And then the third piece will be taking all of that information and sharing it with the Northwest Ag Business Center to help us do market plans. So we will probably identify anywhere from 2 to 4 different fields and hire the folks that can give us kind of a perspective on how to help San Juan County either do a regional or a national market plan. So there is a long-term interest also in international, particularly the Asia Pacific region that I think we could look at in the future. But realistically, I think for this level of funding, we'll be looking at the regional marketing, possibly national. So any thoughts on those or experiences you guys have had? That is all something you can share inside the asset mapping to let us know who you're working with and what's working for you, or if there are some gaps, then go ahead and just write as much personal information as you can fit in that little box. Okay, does anybody have any?
I saw Gregory's hands go.
Yeah, I was just curious. Sorry, I joined about 3 minutes late, so maybe I missed this. But what sorts of artifacts are going to be distributed back to the group so that we so the whole group can understand the conclusions you're drawing from all the information we're providing?
Yeah. At this point, we are thinking of taking all the data from the survey and using story map technology through Esri's GIS mapping to give people the visual overview of where people are doing what. So we can see everybody, we can see just the electronics people, or we can see just the fashion design people. You know, the layers inside the GIS let us hone in on, you know, the sector specific and individual product kind of levels, but also as a group, where are like all the artists and the artisans. I helped run the auction that the Ag Guild did last fall, and it was really interesting. Already we started seeing where there were clusters. People are doing certain kinds of things on Lopez that aren't happening on Orcas, vice versa, San Juan. So I think that tool, and if there's any other tools you would like to suggest as a way to effectively communicate the findings, I'm totally open to that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm probably going to be primarily a consumer of other people's services, I would suspect, and possibly providing some education on areas that I happen to be an expert in. So, you know, the use case for me would be, hey, I really need somebody who's got a water jet cutter who knows how to use it, and I've got a project for them. How can I find them quickly? Because, you know, I'm going to go online and look outside of the county unless there's an easy way for me to find somebody here close, right? So I got lucky, found a good machinist in Anacortes. I have a great relationship with them, but, you know, I'd love to be able to go straight to the person that's in the county, even if they're not on the same island. So that would be, that kind of artifact would be great.
Yeah, we've been thinking about the business to business piece of this. It's not just about marketing out, but also working together inside our own community to develop products and looking for a tool that would best allow people to make that connection. So if anybody has suggestions for that kind of tool, we'd be glad to hear it, because we'll have all this data. It would be really nice to use an effective tool as then the next step for everybody.
I really appreciate the diverse group that came to help us today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all for coming, and thank you so much for Marcy and Stephen for presenting. I guess if nobody else has any comments, I guess we'll say thank you all and have a nice afternoon.